So, what if you could turn something like mercury or lead into a medicine? I know, it sounds wild, right? Well, that's the fascinating and honestly pretty controversial idea behind Rasa Shastra. It's an ancient branch of Ayurvedic medicine. And today, we're going to dive in and break down what it is, how it's supposed to work, and why it's at the very center of a major modern debate. And really, this is the big question, isn't it? Can something we all know to be toxic, things like mercury and lead, actually be turned into medicine? It's a question that puts ancient tradition right up against modern science. So, before we can even try to answer that, we really need to get a handle on what Rasa Shastra actually is. You can almost think of it like a form of alchemy, but instead of turning lead into gold, the goal here is to turn metals into therapeutics. At its core, Rasa Shastra is basically the pharmacy branch of Ayurveda. It's an entire system that's all about taking raw materials from the earth, we're talking metals, minerals, even some toxic herbs, and processing them into what its practitioners believe are incredibly powerful medicines. Now, you might think the roots of this go back thousands of years, and while Ayurveda is ancient, these specific documented methods for using metals are actually a bit more recent. The very first medical text that gets into the details of purifying mercury shows up around the 9th century. Then, by the 10th century, you get the first real Rasa Shastra-focused texts, and they just get more and more complex from there. Okay, so this brings us to the big how. How in the world do you take something known to be a heavy metal poison and prepare it so that people can actually consume it? Well, the answer is in this really meticulous multi-step process. The whole thing hinges on a process called shodhana, which literally means purification. It involves taking thin sheets of metal, heating them until they're red hot, and then immediately plunging them into different liquids, things like oil or, even cow urine. After that, there's a step called calcination, where the metals are cooked in a crucible to create this super fine ash, or a bhasma. According to practitioners, this is the crucial step that supposedly removes all the toxicity and unlocks the metal's healing power. And while mercury is definitely the most famous ingredient, the list of materials used is huge. We're talking gold, silver, lead, tin, zinc, you name it. Plus, a lot of other minerals, and even things from animals like coral, seashells, and feathers. So, of course, this leads us straight to the most important question of all. Is it safe? And this, right here, is where this ancient belief system has a head-on collision with modern toxicology. And here you can see the fundamental disagreement, clear as day. On one side, Ayurvedic practitioners claim that the shodhana process completely purifies and detoxifies these metals. But on the other side, modern science is basically saying, whoa, hold on. Their view is that elements like mercury and lead are just toxic. It's part of their very nature, not some impurity you can just wash away. And believe me, this isn't just some academic argument. It has very real-world consequences. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, has actually documented a number of cases of heavy metal poisoning, especially lead poisoning, that have been linked back to some of these Ayurvedic preparations. So what's the response to reports like that? Well, many Ayurvedic practitioners argue that the problem isn't the traditional science itself. They say the issue is modern manufacturing. Their claim is that a lot of these mass-produced products are cutting corners and just not following the strict, incredibly laborious purification methods that the original practice demands. So with these two sides so far apart, where exactly does that leave this practice in the modern world? I mean, with such a massive difference in viewpoints, how is all this being handled today? Well, in an effort to address some of these safety concerns, the government of India has stepped in and mandated more transparency. The regulations now require that any Ayurvedic product that contains metals has to clearly say so right on the label. And that leaves us with this one fundamental question. Is there a way forward? Is there a path where the ancient knowledge of Rasa Shastra can somehow be reconciled with the safety standards of modern science? Can these two very different worlds ever truly walk together? That's really the challenge to think about.